Hi, this is Friday the 12th of May. This is the Democratic Alliance Labour Report. Thank you for tuning in. If you're happy with us, please send it on to friends and family. I really appreciate it. I've got a couple of things I want to discuss today. We've had quite a tumultuous week in Parliament this last week, and I thought it would be interesting to share with what took place, to tell you what happened in the Labour portfolio budget debate, and then of course to mention what happened in the questions to the President, which probably a lot of you have seen on the news and seen what's happening. The whole world is abuzz what's happened in Parliament in this past week. So thank you for listening to me. As I said, it's Friday the 12th of May. It's the Democratic Labour Report, Democratic Alliance Labour Report, and I'm Michael Bagrain, Member of Parliament and the Labour spokesperson for the Democratic Alliance. Well, first of all, on Tuesday the 9th of May 2023, there was the budget debate in Parliament with regard to the Department of Employment and Labour. And every year a budget is put through to the Portfolio Committee. It's debated, it's analysed, and of course pushed through very strongly by the ANC. Regardless of whether the department performs or not, they push through where they want increases, where they want decreases, etc., etc. And of course I took part in that debate. It wasn't all that interesting, quite boring, and quite predictable of what was going to happen, and it was predictable that in fact it would be passed by the ANC government, despite the fact the UIF didn't even bother reporting to the Portfolio Committee. The Compensation Fund didn't report either. So we don't even know what their budget should look like, but they've granted them increases. I mean, you can't make this up. That two portfolios within the Department of Employment and Labour didn't even report, and we still go ahead and grant their budget to them. Much squealing from the Democratic Alliance, but we don't hold the numbers, and hopefully in the end of 2024 we can correct all that, and as we take our seat rightfully as the governing party and not the ANC. Well, I just thought it was absolutely important to tell you about this. I normally don't speak about budget discussions because they do become quite boring. But one thing that came out which was interesting for me is that the only performing entity of the Department of Employment and Labour is the CCMA, the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. They're the one that's performing. They're actually performing very well, and they're servicing the public, and they've got good results. And of course, what happened? The ANC pushed for a demission of their, I mean, it's just sad, but they said, no, they must get less money. So the CCMA is going to take a knock for performing well. It's quite weird. But we had time in that debate. I was given 6 minutes to talk, with my 6 minutes of fame. And Dr. Michael Cardo, my fellow MP on that portfolio committee, had 7 minutes to talk. And I'm going to be reading some of this to you because you're just not going to believe it, but he did refer to the governing party, to the ANC, as being that so-called Liberation Party. And the allegation made by Dr. Carter actually incurred the wrath of the Minister of Employment and Labour. And I want to read out to you what the Minister said. Hold on to your seat, because I mean, this is no one, Lewis Carroll couldn't have made this up. Any author couldn't have made this up. The Minister ranted, and I now quote, "We have been too nice to you. There will come a time when you regret with this resistance, because we have been too nice, because we chose peace instead of war. And what are you trying to do now? You are forcing us to be more radical. Today, what you're enjoying is what was brought by the ANC. Now you come and tell us that we are the so-called Liberation Party. We will not accept that. There will come a time. Our people have been too tolerant on many issues, including the issues of land and this empowerment we are talking about." Well, that's quoted directly from what he said. But to add to this, and the bile really came out, he then said, he went on to state, if you are a black person still defending the DA, you are like a rented black, rent a darkie. Now that's a direct quote from the Minister of Employment and Labour. We have lodged a complaint. We've asked them to investigate this. This is sheer racism. You can't make it worse than that. This is absolute racism. There were obviously members from the DA present, and the majority of the members from the DA present were black members of the DA. And I mean, when they heard this, they just shook their heads. I read it again. If you are a black person still defending the DA, you are like a rented black, rent a darkie. Now, imagine if a white person said that. They would go to jail immediately. I mean, this is our minister, someone in the highest echelons of government, is saying this in open parliament, with the cameras running, with everyone present. Everyone, including the members of the ANC, just had their mouths open when we heard this. And hopefully action being taken by the DA now will see that the minister has to pay very dearly for that racist behaviour, which I've never experienced that bad. I must tell you, in my days in Parliament, I've been there 9 years now, I've never experienced something like that. Just quickly, another story, which of course I think most South Africans have now heard about. It's got nothing to do with Labour, but I can't help but tell you about it. It was Steenhuisen, our leader, MP John Steenhuisen, was cross-examining the President in Parliament, and all hell broke loose. It had become clear that the Russian ship that was in the Simonstown harbour at the end of last year was loaded with arms, and those arms were taken to Russia for whatever reason. The President on a previous occasion had denied that there was anything illegal that was being loaded on that ship. It now comes out that the American ambassador swears by the fact that arms were put on that ship, and he wants answers from South Africa. And of course, John Steenhuisen put it to the President in Parliament. Of course, that then becomes public, and it's been carried by news stations around the world. CNN have been very interested in speaking to the Democratic Alliance MPs, and John Steenhuisen has been on every single news channel that I can think of on this. It appears that the President was not telling the truth. It appears that so. We will wait for the outcome of the investigation. But what do they do in defense? Well, what the President decides to do is he's going to appoint a commission. Now, this is normal. This is how ridiculous this becomes. He's going to appoint a commission to investigate what he did. He can either tell us that they put arms on or they didn't put arms on. He is the head of the Defence Force as being the President. He has to sign off these documents. The President is in control of the Defence Force, on control of the arms industry. Now he wants to get someone to investigate. It can take years to investigate, to kick for touch. Well, I don't think the American government's very interested in waiting. And of course, everyone has now seen what happened to the Rand. I mean, it's almost 20 Rand to the dollar now, because the Americans are steaming. They are really angry that we've got this so-called neutral country, South Africa, sending arms, lots of arms, a shipload of arms to Russia. Well, things are getting hot, things are getting interesting, and hopefully when the Democratic Alliance walks into the union buildings at the end of next year, hopefully we'll be able to sort this issue out, because that's our biggest trading partner, is America. Of course, that's going to lead to more unemployment, and that's where the Labour issue becomes a terrible one. I'm sorry to bring that terrible news to you today. It's Michael Bagram, Friday the 12th of May. I'm the Labour spokesperson, and thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it.